Hello everyone. In today's session, we'll understand how to create AWS resources using CloudFormation technique. Let's say you decide to create a REST API on AWS in US East 1 region. And then you want to combine this API on your API gateway, which you have created, to a Lambda function or a Lambda handler on AWS again. Now you are on an AWS console doing all this stuff manually. You decide that, hey, I need a DynamoDB database to store all my data. And then you create Dynamo manually through AWS console. Then you may decide I need an S3 bucket to store my artifacts or my logs or metadata for your application. So what you will do is you will again go and create S3 bucket. Now you may also choose that I want to do some analytics on my data and I want to send this data onto some analytics, or let's say using SageMaker I create a code, or on Athena on AWS. And then you'll have to create that manually. There is also a possibility you might choose to grant access to certain set of users who may wish to access this analytics and do some action, perform some action. So you will have to create users manually. You'll have to grant them roles. You have to set certain permissions so that only they can only perform the set of actions that you choose or you wish that they should be performing. Not everybody should have all the rights to do everything, right? So you'll have to definitely grant some permissions and roles. There's also possible you may choose that, okay, my Lambda handler function, I also want to assign some users who should have access to Lambda handler and choose to execute the function that is required for them to do their task. All this is done manually. Imagine now your company says, I want to create this same architecture on another region in AWS. Let's say this time on US West 1. Imagine, wouldn't it be nice instead of going into the console, clicking 1,000 buttons, creating all these resources, having to manage them, remember them? Instead, we write a document or a template which defines how these resources are created, constructed, every connection between them, all permissions, written in a form of code very nicely, and upload that template and tell AWS, hey, AWS, can you create all these resources for me automatically? And this technique of creating infrastructure in the form of a code is done through CloudFormation. Now, how do you create this code? This is in the form of a JSON and YAML. And if you go through the AWS documentation, it has a full detailed view of how to create the JSON. So if you see, it shows you what is a type. So here we are seeing an example of Lambda function as a type. If you scroll down below, if you see, they have also provided an example that shows you what is the name of your resource, the type of your resource. In this case, it is Lambda. Then you define the properties in the Lambda. You define the input handler name, the function name. Notice that there's a little bit of shortcut they have used as a substitution to do inline JavaScripting over here in YAML, right? And this is going to be the definition of your Lambda. And you finally define the runtime either using Python or Node.js or whatever it should be. Similarly, you can go and see, let's see in the example of EC2 instance. If you go and see, you will find a very similar template that follows the very same format for every other AWS resource, which is a kind of template form you can choose and change the type to either SQS or EC2. There is a full recipe available. You can follow that recipe, and it is a very, very well documented recipe provided by AWS. You can go here, you can read yourself, and you'll be able to create any stacks that you want. Right. Now, when I say stacks, this is a second key concept. These are just a logical grouping of your resources. When you combine all your multiple templates together, what at the end of the day it forms is a stack, right? A full stack of all your AWS resources. Now, we'll see with an example how we create when we come to that. All right, so let's start with that. Similar to CloudFormation, you have a technique called Terraform, right, which is widely used right now. If you have a mix and match scenario where some of your infra is on Azure, some on AWS, some on another provider like Google, then Terraform comes as a great wrapper on top of these cloud infrastructures which you can create. It makes it like a cloud agnostic. So that's what Terraform is about. CloudFormation only works on AWS. However, there is also a new offering from AWS which is Cloud Development Kit, now where it allows you to use constructs like if statements and loops, etc., to do all kind of stuff in a much better way. Right now, the CloudFormation template is a standard template where you have only limited capability to modify only what is there available within the template. So that's what CloudFormation is all about. And now let's see it in action. Here, what we have to do first is create a key pair. So I'll go to EC2 instance, and on EC2 instance, I'll create a key pair. I'll give some name, and I'll use this name in the stack code which I create in the template that I create. Right? I've already created one and I've given the name as IoT data push. Also notice over here the VPC ID and the subnet ID. So these IDs you'll have to use it in your code in the JSON code that you have written. So I'll just copy the subnet and the VPC IDs and I'll update my JSON because I had created earlier. Just for the sake of showing it over here in the video, I'm showing the code snippet where you can just go and replace that ID entry in the template over here. And as you can see, this is the full template that we have created. We have created two templates. One is to create the whole stack where we'll push the data. And then second is a code deployment stack. So in order to do the deployment automatically, instead of creating individual resources, we just chose to create a CloudFormation template, the deployment part. So let's go and check before we upload. I have the key pair name. This is the key pair name that I'm using over here. And let's have a look. So that's the same name. Yes, I have it over here. That's correct. Okay, there we go. Now we launch CloudFormation. Under CloudFormation, I already had a stack which I created. So what I'll do is from here, I'll delete this stack and I'll just go to new stack and create a new stack over here. So I'll go to stacks, I'll create stack. The template is already ready. We'll upload the template, the JSON file that we have created. We'll select the JSON file, go to the directory where I've stored the project. So here you will see all the resources, EC2 resource, the S3 bucket, everything is there in this template. You also have an option for designer. You can go to the designer. It's like a form will be provided. You can drag and drop and create your stack. But however, you can read that. We'll see that later. Right now, I'll just go manually give a name to my stack. This will be the name of my EC2 instance. Remember the key pair name that I had given. This is the same name. In the code, I've given this name. So I created this pair on the AWS as well. I can choose to roll back or preserve in case this fails. So you have an option where you can just roll back. Everything rolls back if it fails. Any of the resource fails, the code will roll back. Choose next. Now here when you go down, you will see something. It asks you to acknowledge because remember every service is chargeable. Though this CloudFormation is free, but the stacks, the resources that you create are chargeable. Now this change set below, if you see the create change set, this is nothing but the diff between what the CloudFormation has from previous upload, what you are attempting to upload. It's similar to the git diff between the two git commits. That's what the change set is. You may choose to use or you may choose not to. However, you can have a look at that later. We won't go much into detail on the change sets, but you can have a look later on offline. So what we'll do is for our example, we'll just go and submit this code and let's see how it runs. So the creation is progress. I'll just skip the part because it takes a lot of time to get created. So I've skipped the entire part. You will see the EC2 server instance has got automatically created. It's still initializing because that stack has not completed entirely. But you can see every single stack resource has been created. See the SNS topic. We'll click on the ARN name directly. It will take you the S3 SNS queue. You can see the email ID pending confirmation. I'll just go and confirm my subscription over here. I'm done. Now I'll go back to the screen and see refresh and see my subscription is confirmed. Done. Now I'll go back to the stack. Let's see S3 bucket. So the S3 bucket is also created over here. Now what I'll do is I have this code file. We'll have to zip this code before we upload onto the S3 bucket. Now remember, if you are a Mac user, don't compress it directly from the Finder. However, instead just go and run it from the command line, run the zip utility from the command line. I'll do that. The reason is that because it creates an additional folder Mac OS, which is a hidden folder, and it creates the same copies of the files, and that conflicts when you upload it onto the AWS console. So I'll just create a command line zip and I'll use star for all the files. And there you go, I have my zip file over here, ls-lrt. If you see, the zip is created. Now I'll go and upload these code artifacts on the S3 bucket. I'll just upload the zip file, that's all I have to do. Done, succeeded. So we uploaded the zip file. Now we'll go back to the stack again and we'll see the Lambda. The Lambda was also created. Okay, sorry, I clicked on the event cloud management console. Here's my Lambda function. So you see the Lambda handler is created along with the trigger, the Kinesis. Kinesis trigger, it will just, whenever the data pushes into Kinesis, it will trigger this Lambda handler automatically. Now I'll have to change the ARN name, the SNS topic ARN, because whenever you have a temperature change, it will throw an alert, right, on my email. Remember, we had subscribed to the email. So I'll just change this ARN and deploy the Lambda handler code. That's it. We are done. Go back to the stack again. And here you see everything is created. Check the output over here. You will see all the details of each of the resource that are created. There's no failures and we are good to go. Now what I'm going to do is, if you see, we also created the DynamoDB data. The table, the indexes are being created, but the data is empty because we have not pushed anything. Now we'll log into our AWS console, the EC2 instance that we created right now using this CloudFormation template. I'll just SSH into my session over here using my key name and the public IP. I'll have to take it from the console. You can directly take it from the stack, or you can go to the console and you can pick up the IP from there. Whichever way you want to choose to pick up the IP, I'll take it from here. Yes. So we are logged in. You see there's only one folder installed, nothing else. Now what we'll do is we'll run another stack where you remember I showed you the deployment JSON. In the deployment JSON, we have created the whole deployment application and the pipeline. So this code will get automatically deployed. And in that, we have also created certain set of commands to update, run the sudo commands to install the Python, the pip, and update the libraries, which will automatically run. If you would have seen previous videos, we used to do that manually. Now this will happen automatically through this stack, the template that we are uploading right now. I'll just give it a name, RT data prod stack instance deploy instance, so I can differentiate which instances is next. Check, I acknowledge, submit. So you will see my code deployment. I've uploaded that. I'll go here, I'll see my deployment application. This is my deployment ID. I click here, go to view events. Under view events, you will see my deployment is successful, right? You can see the full set of events over here. Everything is submitted. So the automatically the code builder ran, it got deployed, and now you see IoT data push folder created. In that we have this Python code. I'll run that code. This code is where it pushes the data into the DynamoDB. Now here my Python is running, and you can go and see in the Dynamo. I log into there, AWS console, DynamoDB, tables. I'll go to my instance, run, and there you go. All the data is getting pushed into the Dynamo. And if you see the SNS alerts, you remember I had subscribed to my email. You will see all the SNS alerts as the temperature changes, hot, cold. It keeps pushing an alert. You may choose to send these alerts in the form of topics, whatever, wherever you want to send it, right? I used email for this example. You can choose to do MQTT or whatever you want to use, right? It's up to you. This is just for an example. However, look at this output screen. Here you will see all the details for your instance, IP address for your EC2, the ARN names. You will get all the details over here from the CloudFormation template itself, right, in the output section. This output was defined in the template that we uploaded. You may choose to add more information that you want in the way you want. It's up to you. It's just for example's sake, we have selected this output to show you. Now what we'll do, so we are done with the code. Now we'll just delete all our stacks that we have created. Remember, you should not forget to delete if you are just practicing, otherwise AWS will start charging you. However, notice one thing, this deletion is in progress, but it will fail. I'll tell you, let's see what happens. When you run this, now if you go in the events, we'll check in the events over here. There you go, it failed. Why it failed on the S3 bucket? Because somehow AWS does not empty the bucket. You will have to manually go to the S3 bucket resource. I'll click here. We'll go to the bucket. We'll empty the bucket and then we'll delete the bucket manually. Now bucket is empty and I'll delete it. Done. Now we'll go back to the stack and we'll continue the deletion of the stack. Now because S3 is already deleted, I'll choose to just retain that because we don't want to run it in the delete option. So we'll just choose to retain it, and that's it. Done. The deletion is in progress. Once it is completed, you will see our stack will be empty. That code deploy is already deleted. Now you go here and the stack is empty. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is the beauty of creating cloud formation. You don't have to bother about managing your resources, deleting your resources. You see everything is deleted and terminated. Thank you for watching the video and have a good day.